Hi there. So in this video I want to show a little bit on how exactly ClojureScript applications usually work. So we used to say that ClojureScript is a data-centric language, and I'm going to try to explain a little bit better on what this is. So just a simple recap. Let's run the compiler here. It's in the watch mode, meaning that it will basically watch your files and recompile everything if something happens. For example, I am going to force a save here, and as you can see, it recompiled and completed. I am going to run the server. Now I am listening on port 3000, and I am going to just do a hello world. It's exactly the same code that we had before, and it still keeps the hot reload, meaning that if I save the file, it will basically hot reload everything. Okay, so far so good. So again, remembering, I am going to connect the socket REPL. It will auto-detect everything, and then I am going to connect embedded, and it will connect to ClojureScript, and now I am back onto the tooling mode. Basically meaning that I can evaluate code and will basically just print things in the here and also on the terminal that I am running my code. Okay, so now what exactly means to be a data-centric language? In JavaScript, we usually do something like this. We send a response to that object, and the response means hello world. That's how usually we do things in JavaScript. In ClojureScript, we actually prefer to not do that. We prefer, for handlers and other things like this, to return something that will basically become the response. So in this case, I am going to return something that represents the code that I want to return for my server. So in this case, I am going to return body and hello world here. Obviously, this will not work. So just to keep the same API and not change too much, basically it's a good practice on any programming language to change things little by little. I am going to just do a private function. So private functions are def-in with the minus here. So I'm going to define a private function, and I will say that this private function means like send result. And I am going to need the result, it's the subject, and the data that I want to return. So for now, I am just going to do result send the body of the data. And instead of returning body hello world, I am going to use send result with body hello world. Okay, so, well, things are still working. Let me just change something here so we can see that things are still running. Okay, so to make the handler actually work as we like, basically this means I want this handler to just be written like this, for example. Let me just call it hello world 2. That's how I want my handle to look like. And to make this a reality, I will have to change things a little bit. So for example, I cannot use this internal app for the Node.js. I have to use something else. So again, to avoid having all that trouble of making the app too complicated, I'm going to do it with baby steps. So basically what I want to do is I want to register something. Let's see. Let's call it like register get, and I'm gonna receive the app for ClojureScript, again with a private function. Hopefully this will give me a warning, and if it does, you will see something that I'll have to explain a little bit later. If it not, well, lucky me. So right now what I am going to do is I am going to basically do the same thing that I am doing here, and I am going to use register get to the app and the function. So the function will need to be this. Let's call this the function. And I am just do here the function. Okay, not very exciting. Okay, I didn't have the warning that I wanted, but anyway, it works. So not very exciting, but let's change a little bit how this will work. So instead of like passing the function and being the handle root, what I actually want to do is that I want to write like this, handle root. That's how I want to handle things. Oh, handle root 2. Basically, I want this API to be something like this. Okay, so how do I do that? I am going to need to wrap this function differently, and instead of calling this callback, let's just call it callback or handler, even better. So instead of calling the handler with the request and the response, I am going to call it with just the request, and I am going to call send result in the response. Okay, so hopefully now if I run this, you will see that I have hello world. So as you can see, I now have hello world 2, because it's using this handle root 2. I can actually delete this handle root 1, and that will basically delete the whole thing. Oh, another interesting thing about ClojureScript is that ClojureScript tries to match the number of arguments that you have in a function. So for example, if I send only one argument, the compiler will complain that I am sending just one argument. Obviously, it's not perfect because we have like anonymous functions and other things that basically can make it harder for the compiler to define in the compile time if that is receiving 1 or 2 or 3 arguments, and also because we have like multi-arguments functions, and that breaks the whole thing, but usually it works when it's like a direct call like this. And it also detects if the function is not declared. So like for example here, register get, you will see that's not declared and it's being used here. So we will just declare it right now. Okay, so that's usually how we like to do things. And if you know that register get, it's registering a get. Again, we could go further. We could basically make the handlers a vector. And usually that's how we also do things in routes. We do something like routes. It's a route of like, for example, get slash and handle root 2, and for example post slash handle post on root or something like this, and this will be translated to basically the routes. But we're not gonna do that because this was only an example. Okay, so we have a problem that basically handle root it's synchronous, and ClojureScript is exactly the same as Node.js and JavaScript is asynchronous, which means that the best thing that we could do is to return a promise here. And Sure, I'm gonna show you in the next video how to do that.